You didn't, you took me off of being a host, so I can't record.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Well, let's fix that right now. I also noticed that I had named you Prince J.K. Osiri. You should be a host now, right, Tanisha?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, this conversation we're about to have actually started from a phone call I had with my dear sister, Nikki, uh, Natasha, Dr. Natasha Ramsay-Jordan. And I actually don't forgot because we were talking about so many things, but I forgot what we were talking about. But then somehow we landed about on the topic of beauty and what it means in the African context. And we thought it would be good to discuss it because you had talked about how you feel liberated by cutting your hair. So maybe you could start by maybe sharing with us what you told me, and maybe give us some insight as to your own idea of beauty, right? And by the way, again, this is an informal conversation. None of us here are experts on beauty, right? So the ladies, the sisters here are sharing their experiences. And of course, they can also always draw from other people's experience as well as they enrich our conversation. So, Nikki?
Okay, so yes, to start, thanks for having me on and for putting this together. It's a very important conversation because beauty, both inside and out, is very important not just to Africans throughout the diaspora, but just to people in general, right? It sort of is attached somewhat to how we feel about ourselves, our self-worth, and how we navigate the world, right? Feeling beautiful and so on and so forth. But yes, so this session came about as a result of a conversation we were having. I think I needed to do a recording for an upcoming African-centered education topic. And I said, I can't do the recording until I cut my hair. And you said, oh,
that's right.
You're going to cut your hair? And I said, absolutely. I said, yes, it's when I feel most beautiful, connected. I somehow feel like much to the, this sort of disadvantage of many Africans outside of the continent. We have this, we don't know how to connect necessarily to our ancestors because we don't know. I mean, there's 23andMe and these other things out there that you can do a DNA testing. But I think naturally for me, I think I might have come from South Africa, right? And so I see these beautiful South African women and they just, women throughout Africa who just rock that ball head, right? And I'm like, I think that's me. And when I cut my hair, because I had dreads, I had all these other things, locks and all these other things. But it was when I cut my hair, I think I felt the most in tune with myself, my ancestors, and just everything about me. I felt most beautiful. And it was liberating as well, because we know hair is this sort of attached to a woman's beauty, the idea of that she's beautiful. So that's how we landed here, right? We began to talk about how it shows up as a form of taking advantage of Africans throughout the diaspora in terms of selling hair, and they have to buy hair and so on and so forth. It becomes a big market. And so this landed today's discussion. So if you enjoy it, thank me for it. And if you don't enjoy it, it goes back to Dr. Osiri, okay? Just saying. So yes,
I think they're gonna, even what you just said, I think is very eye-opening. Thanks for being willing to share your perspective. And again, I think we are blessed to have three amazing women on the platform right now. Dr. Natasha Ramsay-Jordan, who has Caribbean roots, but lives in the US. We have soon-to-be Dr. Megan Cardwell, who is African American here in the US as well. And of course, we have Dr. Helen Onyaka, who is Nigerian, African, but lives in the UK. So let's go to Megan. Megan, do you mind sharing your own idea of what it means to be beautiful?
Well, it's hard to start off without first saying how much it resonates with me, Dr. Ramsay-Jordan, what you said about feeling like me. And because I still haven't had that moment where I've looked in the mirror, looked at my hair and looked at myself and the way I look and say, that's me looking back at me. And so very candid, very open, that's where I'm at in my journey. And that's how I feel. And I so agree with you that feeling like ourselves, being able to look in the mirror and see what seems to be myself looking back at me is so important to how we move through the world. And that's connected to our systems of what we've been taught has been beautiful, our unlearning and relearning of what is beautiful once we may learn our heritage that we didn't know before, or we learn about other systems of beauty. So my kind of journey with beauty and understanding myself and my own heritage and where I come from. I am multiracial. So my mom is white, my dad is Black. So my mom, who tends to be the one in the household who kind of cares for your hair, teaches you how to care for your hair. We had completely different hair textures. So, and the Black side of my family, I do use the term Black. That's how I identify the most. But the Black side of my family lived quite a bit farther away. And so we didn't have that kind of cultural capital, those tools from our family that we loved, because they lived a little bit farther. So I lived closer to the white side of my family. And my dad never had hair, always bald, always. So never didn't have those kind of hair tools either to help us learn about how to care for our hair. So our mom did her best, which most parents do. I really firmly believe that most parents do the best with what they have and or do the best for their children. And I really appreciate her for that. So she put our hair in braids in the summer, braided it up, took forever because I'm an identical twin. So she had those two heads and my older sister as well. And I never quite felt like myself as a child, which led to the hair straightening and the damaging of the hair and the losing all the hair and having to restart in college. And that's when I really started this journey with my hair of just cutting it all off and starting again. And this is in my adulthood is when I started wearing my hair natural and trying to figure out what it's doing and how to care for it. And so when I think about beauty, I'm really in this area of unlearning and relearning. So while I look at people who are completely different across the entire world and see beauty in all of these different systems, I haven't quite figured out how that fits for me yet, and how I take those things of beauty that I see as so beautiful on other people, but on myself, it's not okay. And so I'm still in that journey of relearning what beauty means for myself. So I'm glad to be part of this conversation, to hear others' perspectives and kind of talk that through. So thank you for having me.
Well said. Let's go to Dr. Onyaka. What does it mean to be beautiful from your point of view? You're on mute, by the way.
Hi, everyone. My name is Helen, and it's nice meeting you, Natasha and Megan and Dr. Siri. Thanks for inviting me. For me, beauty is not just outward appearance, it's inwards, you know? So beauty for me starts from the inside, and you have to believe in yourself and you have to be confident in yourself. My culture, I'm an Igbo speaking person. We're brought up to be confident in who we are and in our own skin. So, sometimes in the UK, people ask me, are you married to a white man? I was like, no, why do you ask? Because of the confidence I come across with. So they assume maybe I'm associated with someone that is white, for example. And I was like, no, I'm married to an African man. Okay. In terms of journey with hair, I have very thick African hair. I mean, very thick. And it was very difficult to manage as a child. And I remember crying a lot. Anytime I go to salon, I cry and cry. And my mom, she found it very frustrating taking me to the salon. So most of the time, people call me scatter hair. I what that means because my hair is really unmanageable, really, really thick.
Did you say they call you scatter? Did you say scatter hair?
Scatter hair, yeah, because my hair is all scattered, yeah.
All over, got you.
So and that stuck with me. And I remember my husband also, when I was cutting with him, he made a comment about that because my hair was really unmanageable. But what happened was the one time I was really traumatized. I went to the salon with my mother and I cried so much that she got very angry. She's like, you know what, we're going to cut your hair short. And then they cut my hair and I had a very low cut. Then my brothers teased me throughout that I looked like a man and all those kind of things, no difference. I was the only girl and we're a family. I had 4 brothers then. So anyway, the only way I could manage my hair was braiding. Okay, so I started by braiding. When I went to university, I permed my hair, but then I didn't like the perming, the hair. I felt it was damaging my skull and the chemicals. So right now my hair is natural, but I put it in weave on. So I put on weave on all the time. No wonder I don't think many people have seen my natural hair. So I wear the weave on all the time. And to me, it's a matter of convenience because I have kids that were growing up. I'm very busy. I lecture in the university. So all I have to do is just put my hands through it and it's easy and I'm comfortable with it. And then I found out, I could even put color, So I decided to experiment with colors. I like bright outfits, wearing things that are quite bright and, bringing out my personality because I'm quite a bubbly. I like making friends. So, so I changed the colors to what I feel like. So to me, beauty starts from inside. Who do you know? How you feel about yourself. I look at myself in the mirror and I thank God that, I'm alive today and I'm healthy. So to me, that's all, captures what beauty is in my own eyes. So, but it's nice to have a dialogue and to have a talk about this because I believe in having a natural hair. So my hair is all natural, but it's now enclosed in something else. Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Dr. Siri, if I can just follow up on
Please
what
go ahead.
Yeah, what Megan and Helen said. And so Megan spoke about beauty in terms of this journey that we all have to embark on, right?
Yeah.
And I think because of that, it's kind of hard to make a generalization on what beauty is. And then, of course, Helen complemented it with there's this sort of confidence that one has when one feels beautiful or feel that beauty from within. And so because different cultures have different standards of beauty, right? The discussion becomes one packed with loads of biases, right? Of what beauty is and is not. So for me, because it's both internal and external, beauty comes down to something simply that is just pleasurable, right? Pleasurable. Do I feel pleased and pleasurable? Am I pleasurable to be around, right? That's the beauty from within that Helen was talking about, right? Because I can feel pleasurable, but then no one wants to be around me, right? So it's this, combination. And I think most of what we were getting at in our discussion, Dr. Siri, is this idea of what is pleasurable in terms of appeasing the aesthetic senses, right? Especially those of the sight, right? And that's what we kind of narrow down, that physical idea of beauty. And so with that, it's not objective. It's not objective. Or is it complicated, really? Right? Because when we talk about it coming from a place of confidence and so on, it's not complicated. And it's in the eye of the beholder. But unfortunately, when we begin to think in more modern terms, particularly the West having this dominated idea of what should be beholden, we find ourselves with this conversation being very critical, very important, right? Because although beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, we have been told what to beholden as beautiful, right? And so, so with that came this, with the westernized or Eurocentric idea of what's beauty and beautiful, it it came with this deliberate effort, I feel, to leave out African features. And then beauty began to be more scaled towards skin color primarily, going to this lighter shade. Farther away from being dark like me, right, the more beautiful one becomes. That is this Eurocentric, this Western way we've been told to behold beauty, right? That's why we start to hear terms like dark but not beautiful. Have you heard that? Or dark but beautiful, rather. That but, oh, you're dark, but you're so beautiful. You're pretty for a dark skin girl, right? So with those kinds of statements, it's telling you what beauty is, the aesthetics form, right? The sight, right? You're beautiful for a dark skinned girl. You're dark, but beautiful. It's okay, you're dark, but guess what? You're beautiful, right? but usually it's, oh, she's white and she's gorgeous, right? Or she's white, period. That's the end of it. And then the next sentence, or perhaps a semicolon or something like that, and beautiful. Make sense? And so, go ahead, Dr. Siri.
Let's dig in there, because I actually would like to, so if we have time, segment this discussion in I would say 4 areas. So look at hair, we look at skin tone, and I think we're already dipping our toes into those areas. We have some time, we go into nails and maybe talk about relationships as well. So let's talk about hair. Of course, I believe Dr. Helen Onyaka that when she said she's beautiful and she's wearing the attachment, that she means it. I know she's a very social, very outgoing, beautiful person inside and outside, right? A very accomplished woman, no doubt about that. But I want to press her a little bit because in Nigeria, her country of origin, where I come from too, even among the Igbos, where we all both have roots from, we know that there are young girls there now who would do the same thing you are doing in terms of they will get attachments right on their hair, but they're not doing it because they are confident like you. They are doing it because that is what they see. They are hiding. So for you, it's a matter of convenience. You're a professional. For them, I've seen teenagers who go out to buy hair, and because they want to mask their own. So at what point do we begin to say, look, okay, you probably shouldn't be doing that? Or should we just chug it on and say, okay, let's leave everyone alone? I want to get a sense from what you think, Dr. Onyaka, because you probably have some experience in this, and maybe also hear Megan's perspective on that. What point should we come in and say, look, you probably shouldn't be doing this? Please, Dr. Onyaka, go ahead.
Okay. No, I understand what you mean, because I've seen people wearing very, very long hair up to their, bottom area, very long, and they're looking very ridiculous, So I have a daughter. And my daughter, she's 17. Having her hair is manageable and her hair is natural. So what we do to manage it is wear braids. So she's always wearing braids still because she goes to school. We can't be doing the hair every morning because she's busy. She's taking her A-levels. So right from when she was young, I started to encourage her to leave her hair natural. So, her hair is not texturized. I know she does cry, when we go to salon sometimes. Her hair is not texturized, it's not permed. So it's all natural, but we'll have it in braids. I think at that age, trying to encourage her to understand, listen, it's okay to have your hair like that. That is your individual person. That is who you are. It's very difficult for Selena, my daughter, because in school, she's the only Black girl in her class. And, very few of them, people touch her hair and they make fun of her hair. And sometimes they even tell her, oh, we don't see you in photos, and things like that. So all I do as a mother is I keep encouraging her, getting her to be confident in who she is. I say, Selena, you're so beautiful. I mean, in my university, for example, I have people that are my age, I'm over 50, and they look so old. but look at my skin. So anytime they say anything about me, Helen, I was like, wow, because I know the black skin is very beautiful. I mean, we have the advantage. We don't have all the skin cancer and all these issues they have. Wrinkles are not that easy. They don't come easily on us, like, So I try to, tell my daughter, even at university, say the black skin we're so blessed to have the skin color. So I don't make light of the blessing we have, because with all these issues they have, they go out in the sun, they burn and stuff like that. We don't really have all those issues. So it's a thing that's happened in the past, trying to get us to think that our skin color is inferior. No chance. I preach the opposite to university. I was like, wow, that's a blessing that comes from having a dark skin. And it's true, because I look much younger than all the people my age mates why? Because we have a very superior skin color. So, and I don't apologize at all for it. So I try to encourage my daughter to say, Selena, you have a very beautiful skin. I mean, look at your friends. You're all looking so young. You're so beautiful. Don't worry. Then, what you need to do is position yourself in the photo so you come out. Don't stand at the back. Don't stand just look for the best position and give you the best smile, because that is how, if I've been encouraging her, because if I don't do that, she might want to start having braids, weave on and stuff like that now to look like everybody, but no. So I think the best thing is starting at a very young age to encourage our youth to feel confident in who they are. Their skin is good. Our skin color is one of the best, and also our hair is beautiful if we can manage it. Yeah.
Megan, please jump in.
Yeah, I'm so blessed to have at least a little bit of that black skin and that melanin, because I was taking photos at the park like a couple of weeks ago, and someone was like, "Are you taking your senior pictures for high school?" And I was like, "I am." Thank you so much, but I am 26 years old. So I resonate with that. And in terms of, I have done braids, I have done twists, I do them all myself. I've never been to a salon before. I cut my own hair, which is why it looks a mess. And I've never really gone to the salon, because when being in a predominantly white area with, a white mom, she took me to a salon one time that didn't know how to cut my hair, and I ended up with a horrible haircut, and I've never been back. So in maintaining my own hair and in thinking about my own hair and kind of wearing braids, I've worn extensions, I've worn my hair straight for long periods of time, and I still do straighten my hair every once in a while, because Black hair is so incredible, and that it's so versatile, and it defies the laws of gravity. It's magical. It's all of these wonderful things.
Yes,
it does so many different things, and that versatility is so wonderful. And I love when people lean into the versatility of their hair, but it's kind of two sides of a coin, right? Because it's so versatile. But for me, speaking from my own experience, I change my hair so often and we're taught all the time that like people have one look, they have one identifying look, that's them. And that's how you find your confidence. That's how you express your beauty, is that you have this unique look to you, and people can always identify you of that's her beautiful look. So when you have this versatility, that's so wonderful, because you can explore and you can do all these other things. But then sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, what is my look? What is my identifying hair characteristic? Like when people think of me, do they think of a certain hairstyle, and does that even matter? So I think with that versatility, and with having long braids, and whether or not that's hiding or leaning into your versatility, it's really hard to say, right? Because it's person to person and it's experience to experience. And so, as we've already said in this call, that inner confidence and where we're coming from is developed. And sometimes people need those braids, and young people need those braids and those different hairstyles to develop and to figure out what feels like them. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they believe in their heart that they're not beautiful without it. And if they do get to that point where they feel like they're not beautiful without it, perhaps they're still in the stages of finding their way. Because I think just as everybody has kind of resonated, it's a journey. And it's not only your hair journey is not only a journey with your look, but it's your journey with femininity, because hair is so wrapped up in femininity and how we tell people that they're feminine or not, and which leans into, are you attractive or not? And all of these different things, are you turning away from your heritage or not, right? Hair is so political in that it's when you're Representative Ayanna Pressley, right? She kind of openly shared her alopecia journey and how she wore twists. She's a representative for Massachusetts. I think her area covers Boston, and she wore twists, and she said, I looked in the mirror and this was me. After her whole years of her hair journey, she said, I finally met myself when I started wearing twists. And because I'm a Black woman in politics, my look and my hair is political. And people told me, aren't you afraid that people are going to see you and think that you're not feminine, or that you're militant, or that, this is some sort of statement? And she's like, it is. It's central to my political brand, because as a Black woman in politics, everything that I do is political, including my hair, and turning away from Eurocentric standards of beauty and wearing twists and wearing natural hairstyles is part of my political brand, is part of that reimagining what is professional, what is beautiful, what should Black women look like in professional spaces. And then her journey of finally finding how she felt like herself. And then she developed alopecia and she lost all of her hair. And she kind of, about 2 years ago, she kind of came out as bald and revealed her being bald for the first time. And I'll share the link to that video if you haven't watched it. I watch it like every couple of months because it feels like home place to me. And it's just this journey of, you could find your outer confidence that matches with your inner confidence, and then it could be gone tomorrow, and you have to re-envision how you feel beautiful. And so this is a really long-winded tangent, but all to say that I think it's really, really difficult to look at a group of teenage girls or a group of young women and determine whether or not they're hiding behind their hairstyle, or whether or not this is just part of their journey. Because sometimes those cloaks of invisibility and existing in those invisible spaces is where we find ourselves, and we have to lean in and dwell back into those spaces with ourselves to come forward into the light. Yeah.
Well said, Megan. I think Megan pointed out, and I think Helen might have touched on this as well, is that our hair is such an intricate part to our beauty, our journey and understanding of our beauty, that it's going to be important that we don't approach, especially responding to our teenagers, in this one size fits all. Some might be playing around with just style and fashion. I feel like, red hair today because I have on red pants, right? But their inner beauty and their understanding of themselves as an African young lady, and that in itself is beautiful, might be intact. But let's make no mistake about it. Everything about the African has always been under attack. There have been laws on books that prohibit the natural wearing of your hair, right? And so we've got to be careful. We can't approach the young ones and young adults and very young adults like myself with this same idea that, oh, they just don't like their African beauty. But we also have to understand that from the day we are born, we are bombarded with messages that tell us directly, explicitly, that we are not beautiful, that we are still to this day celebrating, oh, the first Black woman to win this beauty pageant. What? Because here in 2022, we are still celebrating these monumental, these things, because we have never been thought of as beautiful. And someone put in the chat, what is the responsibility of men in this, right? because, like I said, it affects every area of our lives. It's political, it's in our relationships, and it's in everything. And I know when Professor Siri and I were talking, and he was telling me about this hair pandemic that's going on in Nigeria, I said, yeah, where are the men? Because the men can shut that down. And I'll tell you how. Women, when we get dressed and we want to look cute, we like what we see in the mirror, yes, but we're really getting dressed because we want to catch that guy's attention. Right?
Say it like you mean it. Say it.
Say it like I mean it. Because seriously, our girlfriends will go, oh, girl, that looks so fly. You look good. I might not even say the right terminologies that the young ones use these days. But, you got it. You're wearing that. But let the guy do a double take. Look and look again. He has just confirmed for her that she looks good. So if the men start to say, actually, no, I like the natural hair, the natural look, they will put those stores out of business. They really would. And for me, that's how men play that important role in helping to really reimagine what this African beauty can be all about. Perhaps it's a combination of the naturalness as well as the playing around with the different styles and looks.
Can I jump in real quick? I think, so I'm not going to give a whole neuropsychology lesson, but I'm really into the concept of myelination. So when we see things repeatedly, certain pathways in our brain become myelinated, which means they become more insulated, they become stronger, so that we default to those pathways in the future, right? Because we can't possibly think about everything all day long, right? I can't have a sit down intrapersonal conversation with myself every time I go through a drive-through, right? We need some myelinated pathways that just allow us to go through life, to breathe, to walk, to do all of these things without thinking deeply about them. But when we're bombarded with messages about what is beautiful, and then those messages are reinforced through media, visually, audibly, right? You're beautiful for a dark-skinned girl, right? It's reinforced through our language. It's all of these different levels of how it's reinforced. And also through that interpersonal level, right? We've got our wide systems, we've got our interpersonal level of the double take, our friends telling us, our parents telling us, our mom telling us, that's, you look beautiful or whatever. And so the more that we strengthen the underused pathways, the more we start to default to them or have the cognitive complexity or the ability to be able to not default at all. And so the more and more we're told at a wider level and an interpersonal level that this is beautiful, that this is an option, not even necessarily saying I prefer natural, I prefer XYZ, because hello, no one should prefer anything on my body, it's my body. And so you can prefer all you want, but it's my choice I need to prefer myself. But the way I prefer myself is by strengthening those pathways and having that repetition of that outward explanation of this is wonderful, this is beautiful, this is an option. And so that does come from wider levels of seeing people like us, seeing people wearing their natural hair, seeing people lean into being them publicly, but also that interpersonal level, just like Natasha's been saying, of that reinforcement from the people around you. So I think the lesson here of how do Black men, how do men in general in our relationships broadly contribute to this experience is telling people when they look beautiful and women, Black women look beautiful all the time. It's just a personal opinion, but to reinforce those pathways of you look beautiful with your natural hair, you look beautiful regardless. Say it, see something, say something, and express those feelings, and instead of keeping quiet, but always, of course, approach this conversation with care for the other, because it's not your experience, it's not your hairstyle, it's not the way that you're walking through the world. So when you're approaching these conversations to be complementary and to reinforce these pathways of reinforcing a person telling them they look beautiful, but also approaching this conversation with understanding that you're not living it, and then it's not up to you. It's a complicated balance to strike.
It really is.
But I think it can be done, and it's important to be done. And it's how we support each other in life and in general, in all contexts, right? Coming to a conversation saying, I don't understand what you're experiencing, and I'm going to defer to you and your judgment and how you're living and experiencing it, but also reinforcing the way that I feel about your beauty and being complementary.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you think about the when during the time, let's say the 60s and 70s, like with the Black Panther movement, for example, the Black men were encouraging and pushing Black women to have these big fros, right? These afros. And they were reshaping, reimagining, reaffirming for the sisters that how you are is beautiful enough, right? So that's what I mean by together we can reimagine this and we can shape it or you know, and whatever it is. But they were very uplifting, right? The Black men, I can't think of a time when the Black man and woman didn't need to work together to get things done. And so that's why I love that question that was in the chat. How do the men show up in this conversation? Because, you know, I think it's very, very important. They don't necessarily dictate for us how we feel beautiful, right? Confidence, self-confidence is a reason why it starts with self, because I am the one responsible for it, but they can reaffirm it and push it, right? And help out with that. But I think, Helen, you were going to jump in real quick.
Yeah, I think what you just said now, you know, pulls in what I was thinking. Reaffirming, fine, but telling me how to wear my hair, no. Because, for example, when men lose their hair, I don't like a man who's lost his hair, but I'm not going to tell you, I don't like your bald hair. Why don't you grow some hair, you know? Because they're going through, I'm sorry, you know what I mean? You know, so it's all individual journey. So, but reaffirming, fine, but don't dictate, because African men, to be precise, Nigerian men can actually go into dictating. You know, they'll tell you, I don't want this hair, don't take, you know, have your hair natural, or I don't like that. You know, I don't think women should be put in that category where a man dictates what they should do or not to do. But I don't want to take it down, because I know coming from Africa and Nigeria, they can't do that. They have if they have the opportunity, they will do that. One, because they don't want to pay the money, because it costs quite a lot to have your hair.
Come on now, Dr. Yaki, come on now.
I'm going to be saving money. So yeah.
So you're touching on something else that's economics, the Black economics. Yeah. Do we really want to keep feeding into that part of, you know, so now you're touching on something else that perhaps we should stop spending so much money on all this care and start to reaffirm what beauty looks like for us, because that is $1 billion industry that we have not tapped into. So I know you said it in a funny way, but that's actually serious, that perhaps if we begin to understand that what we were born with, and there was a reason why for several decades, there were really no investment in how we take care of Black hair. That, for me, I think that's deliberate and intentional, how we take care of Black hair. And even today, they've come in and monopolized that market, watered down all the products, and we still haven't figured out how to take care of Black hair in a healthy way. Because we should not have to be going through the pain of brushing. Others might go through the pain of brushing, but somehow our experience is showcased in a way that, oh, we have to go get the relaxer and the straightener, right? There is beauty and power, liberation, pride, just everything that comes with this idea of when we center ourselves in this natural way. And when you just tied in economics, for me, it just doubled down more of why we need to be very careful how we spend our dollars in these markets with hair. And now if you're owning the market that have the hair, Helen, I'll buy it all day. Right? Because that's Black economics, right? And so, but we don't even have control of that, of an image that we didn't have control of in the first place, you know? So, but I don't want to hog the conversation. Go ahead, Dr. Siri.
No, go. I think Megan wants to chime in here. Go ahead, Megan.
Yeah.
And I wanted to chime in and say, like, it's complicated, right? How we own and take back the market, because the products that are available to us, like you said, have been commodified in a way that it's not coming into our hands. It's not coming out of our own mouths. It's not something that we have control over. So in some instances, to relax your hair and have the manageability of not having to buy all the products to care for your hair, in some ways that is taking back the market. And so it's complicated for each person, just like Helen talked about manageability. It's like it's not a one size fits all, because in some instances when women wear a weave or wear a wig or relax their own hair, it's a manageability and time thing. And we would never look at that woman and say, you're not leaning into your African heritage because you have relaxed hair, right? There's no one way to be African, to be Black, to be part of this community. And so it is so complicated, that balance between, because hair means so much when we want it to mean so little, that for some women, reclaiming their time is done through relaxing their hair and then having to do less maintenance, buy less products that they don't want to support because, they're not supporting us back. It's so complicated.
It really is. It's complicated because we're not a monolith people, period. Right? So my expression of what beauty looks like is going to be very different from Helen and Megan's. But I think if I put purple in my hair and I want to express it that way, if I look at Helen in her natural state and Megan in her natural state, and I go, ew, she need to go slap on a blonde wig or something. I think that to me is the issue, right? The mentality behind the purple here, the blonde here, the red here, the mentality behind that, the thinking that goes into that. And we see how this shows up in movies, right? It's not the women that look like me run away with the happily ever after with the star, right? With the main character. So we've got to think of it in terms of that as well. And so again, the mentality of it, because you hear, because Hollywood is one of the biggest producers of what beauty is and what it should look like, right? But you don't see very many women in their natural state that are the leading actresses that will end up with the happily ever after, all right? So we've just got to be intentional and deliberate in how we move about with every essence of our womanhood, our Black womanhood, from head to toe, literally, so we can help the next generation of young women to understand that in their Blackness, there's power, there's liberation, and they should be proud. They should be proud of it. It should come with pride, right? And it's not even a thing about feeling superior. I know Helen mentioned earlier that she makes sure her daughter know that her skin is superior, right? And it's not even about that. It's that my difference is not deficit. That's the key, that the difference in my skin and my hair, I tell my daughter, we are the only people with the kind of hair we have. Think about that. So that's our birthright stamp right there. We are the only, no one else born with the hair, like you said, Megan, defying gravity. From birth, the only of all the races, we are the only one. And we've got to take that with a sense of pride. It's not deficit, it's different, right? So again, I'll be quiet. Dr. Siri, I'll go on and on. You got to interject and interrupt.
No, this is your conversation to have. I'm just here to facilitate. Well, there's a question in the Q&A. Let's see. The question is, Black professional women with straight hair, e.g. Michelle Obama, what is the political or professional cost of wearing natural hair?
That is a beautiful question. And I love Michelle Obama. I have becoming, I have it, right? But I think I was waiting for her in her second term to rock some braids, some natural hair for some, because you can't get reelected anyway, right? Because when we, Paul Mooney, the great comedian that passed away, he used to say, when Black folks have their hair relaxed, white people are relaxed around them. But when Black folks have to hear nappy, white folks are unhappy. So, relax, they're relaxed. Nappy, they're unhappy. The hair is so powerful. It really, really is. And I love my sister, Again, she has a right to express herself anyhow. But how liberating it would have been for young women to see this first beautiful lady rock that natural look. One of Oprah Winfrey's least selling magazines is when she graced the cover of her own magazine with the South African braids. She went to South Africa, they braided it, and it was one of her worst selling issues. Right? This is Oprah. This is Miss, you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car. So it's complicated, like we all said in the beginning. It's cemented in cultural roots, but we've got to be careful that beauty in the eyes of the beholder, that we are not beholding to someone else's standard of what that is, and continue to cost us Africans throughout the diaspora. Cost us big time, right? Our hair, how we look, how we feel about each other. And so it's a conversation, continuing conversation. So absolutely.
Does anybody else want to chime in? Megan, Helen, you want to?
I want to reiterate my love for Michelle Obama all day, every day, always.
All day, every day.
But I think it's hard. It is so complicated because I invest in both arguments of picking your battles, of her picking her battles, of we can't see into her world. It could be a manageability thing. She did a lot for us. In my opinion, she did a lot for us as First Lady. And so she's moving and shaking and she's doing stuff. And maybe that was part of her manageability and picking her battles. And this conversation, this idea of what obligation do public figures have to us for forwarding the representations of beauty as public figures. And I think I really thought about this with Chadwick Boseman when he passed, and people were saying he should have spoken about his illness, because so many Black men suffer with this and suffer with the stigma of not being open, going for checks, caring for themselves in this way. He should have been more open with his illness before he died, instead of hiding it. And I was like, that's a lot of weight to carry on your shoulders, of being responsible for the whole Black community, to be caring for their health in that way, right? Just like I'm thinking with Michelle Obama, that's a lot of responsibility to wear on your shoulders, to your hairstyle dictates what all Black women in America think is possible and respectable to wear for their hair, right? So it's that seeing both sides of the argument of saying, just like Ayanna Pressley, right? When we see those representations, what a ripple effect those have, and how important they are for us and for our myelination of what is beauty and our representation of what is beauty. And I agree that that's so important. And then I see the other side of, gosh, if I were in her position, what a weight to wear on my shoulders, that my hairstyle is going to dictate not only what white people think about me, but what Black people think about me, and whether or not I'm turning in or turning away from the Black community, right? And it turns back to, this is political. It does matter. When people say hair doesn't matter, hair is hair, and looks, and the way that you present yourself, because your hair is so malleable and we can lean into Eurocentric standards or lean away from them. It's like, it is political. And these choices are going to be deemed, regardless of why you make your choices, they are going to be looked at from outsiders' perspectives as a political statement. Regardless of, having a Black body is political no matter what. And like, no matter what you do with your body, whether you intend to be political or you intend to just live your life, you're going to be perceived as making a political statement. And so I think it's really an important conversation, and I certainly don't have the answers to it. But that's these meetings like this, conversations like this, I think we should all accept non-closure, because that's how we move forward and make decisions and get more comfortable with that complexity and that non-closure and that ability to say it's different for every person in every situation, and there may be common threads that we should think about, but we're never going to come to a clear decision. But I think that's an important conversation to have, and so much of what Natasha just said just resonated with me, of like, yes, that would have been so important, and would that have been liberating for her? Would that have been an extra burden that she now has to carry with all the things that were thrown at her as the first Black First Lady? Gosh, it's so complicated.
And I just want to clear something up. I'm not saying she should rock it throughout her entire second term. And I knew she wasn't there to be liked and loved by others. She had enough of us loving on her that she was going to be just fine. She's a strong, intelligent woman, and so to complement her fight against obesity and this whole idea of being healthy, body, soul, and mind, that is a part of the health journey for Africans throughout the diaspora, period. That would have been complementary to exactly what she was working on, making us more healthy, mind, body, and soul. And so just a day in time to rock it just once, maybe walking with the kids to the park or something like that, it would have been powerful, because she was going to make the news anyway. She planted a garden, a healthy garden, and folks had something to say about that, right? So she was good. She had enough of us loving on her that all the folks that didn't like her, she was going to be just fine. She's saying, move America, let's, be healthy and strong. And they were chastising her about that. So adding this, she would have been just fine. And I'm talking about just one day in time, because it would have been captured in that moment in time online in photograph, and it would have lived forever. I could show my daughters, my granddaughters, look at this beautiful woman, the First Lady of the United States. And she's telling you straight, natural, she's beautiful. You know what I mean? So I think the power was in that, is what I was really saying, not the entire, essence of the second term and so on and so forth. So she is, she's a phenomenal woman. Like I said, I helped her to be the #1 bestseller, right? And I will continue to support her. Absolutely.
Sure. Let me sort of bring this together as we come to a close, and I'd love to get input from Dr. Onyaka. So there's research from Akinro and Abunyaza Memani. Two scholars analyzed what hair types, skin tones, and body sizes were represented on African magazine covers, okay? And looking at women, what the images look like. Their analysis included 376 magazine covers, examined hair types. The authors identified 4 possible hair types: straightened or store-bought hair, weave, natural African hair, African braids, and bald skin short. Authors found that 72% of the women on the magazine covers were straightened or store-bought hair. In contrast, 10% had natural hair, 9% had braids, and another 9% were bald or short hair. Again, this is speaking to what Megan talked about earlier about myelination and rewiring of the neurons of our brains. What we see, we believe becomes true when we become. And so what are we doing through communication? I mean, this could be a good takeaway for us here now. As we go on, what are we communicating? What are we saying? What are we putting out there for the world to see? And if we actually believe and posit that beauty is multidimensional, even in the African context, then it should be representative in the way in which we project it. But this research shows it is not, right? And so let's see, reviewing skin tone, 60% of women had medium skin tone, 30% had light skin tone, 9% had dark skin tone. And so this was done in Africa. Magazines mostly run, I think there were 4 magazines run in Nigeria and in South Africa. I'd like to get Helen's comment on this because, you know, of her Nigerian background, what she has to say about that, and then maybe get input from the other 2 ladies, and then we can close. Helen, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was a bit surprised because I was expecting that you tell me is magazines in the West, not in Africa. So that's a bit surprising hearing you say that. But like I say, you know, for me, my daughter, I use her as an example, I keep encouraging her to believe in herself. Okay. And one thing that has happened over the time my daughter has been in that school, quite a lot of her friends are all coming to have braids. They're beginning to find braids fashionable. They're wanting to be a bit like her, you know? So I think it all boils down to getting our young ones to be confident in who they are. And like what Megan said, they're going to go through that process until they decide what is okay for them. It's a process. But I know with the media, the image they're projecting, you know, calls for question, especially in Africa. You expect more people to have their natural hair. I mean, when I was growing up, I don't know, Natasha, if you've seen the kind of hair we used to have in my mother's time, with long, you know, it's like you can build an upstairs, I don't know, like different decade, you know, yeah, with lots of cowries and stuff like that in the hair. That's beautiful. Beautiful. But we've moved away from that. It's so beautiful. When I look at those pictures, I wonder, wow, you know, it'd be nice to have more of those kind of images, you know. I'm conscious of time. Let's see, Megan, if you have, or Natasha, something to say about the study. Yeah.
Yeah, Megan, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think that really helped put it in perspective for me, Helen, of thinking about, because like in my own journey, wearing braids for the first time as a multiracial person who grew up in predominantly white areas, very much did not lean into my Blackness until I was a lot older. That was liberation for me at that age. And so, and so it's not a one size fits all, because me wearing my hair in braids centered my Blackness for the first time. And so, but, you know, for others that we might not see that as the case, and that has to do with, right, skin tone, where you live, all of those types of things. But it is surprising to me, right? And it's so true that our projection of these things really does matter as well. And because I'm an interpersonal scholar, I really think about the interpersonal level and how all of these things are reinforced, changed, reshaped, redefined through our interpersonal interactions. And I think that love between us is really important. But you're so right that especially for people who don't have that connection and that companion of people around them who are willing to have these conversations, who are willing to talk through this and say, yes, this is important. I want to talk through this with you. I want to affirm you. For those people, media is everything. And so I think this is a really important piece of the conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know we're pressed for time. We're short on time here. But Helen, you hit on something else as well when you said when your daughter started wearing her hair in braids, the others, and you already said she was the only Black student in the class, that the other students wanted to wear braids. And that always happens, right? The more we tap into because we are the shapeshifter, like we shape these things, you know, the more we tap into that, others follow. And then we've got to be careful, because then it becomes cultural, right? This kind of a cultural, are we pressed for time? Siri,
no, go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
Right. It becomes this, what's it called? Acculturation. Yes. Yes, cultural appropriation, right? And we've got to be careful with that as well, right? It's good to be admired, right, and complimented, but when what you have been torn down for over the years now become this way of beauty. I know we didn't get into the shape, the body shape of beauty, right? But curvy Black women, you know, become with these beautiful curves, right? And it used to be knocked down as ugly. Then fake, when they figured out how to go fake implants into the lower areas, start to define the hips, then it becomes beautiful, right? And so we see that with Helen's daughter's school, right? When they figure out how to now braid her hair, we can look like her daughter. Yes, now it's beautiful. right? And so I just, you know, I don't want to go way over time, but this is supposed to be part one. Please, Dr. Siri, let's call this part one to be
Sure.
continued, because there's so
Yes.
many other
I
things
think
we need to
Megan
talk
already
about.
made a suggestion that
Oh.
part two should be cultural appreciation and appropriation. And we're going to tackle that maybe in 2 weeks, since we are still in Black History Month in the US.
Oh.
Next week, we're going to deal on a different topic, but maybe in 2 weeks, you come back and we could, you know, do this again. That would be much appreciated. And hopefully I could have another gentleman on the panel to help out too, you know. But it's been an amazing discussion. Thank you so much, ladies, for being open and willing to share your own experiences, to lift everyone up, to really let us know that it's okay to be ourselves, and also for admonishing our men to go ahead and take a double take, you know, and when you are you, right?
Yes.
We do appreciate that. So once again, thank you so much to everyone for tuning in, to all our guests who tune in live. Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. Stay beautiful, ladies. Love it. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. It was good. Thank you. Bye, all. Bye.